This is a production of kmmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, we have got a lot of stuff going on, and I want to thank everybody for being here. It's Monday. It's a new year. It's really exciting that we are here. And in fact, Eric is there, and we're doing something in the new year that we ain't never done before. Eric, what's that?
Well, we're streaming live video of the show to our KKNW's Facebook page, KKNW's YouTube page, and KKNW's Twitter feed, and to Positive Talk Radio's Facebook page and Positive Talk Radio's YouTube page. So if you're subscribed to any of those channels, and I sincerely hope that you're subscribed to all of them, you can watch live as we do the show today.
Which would be a lot of fun, because we've got a really exciting, vivacious guest with us today.
Absolutely.
But I got to ask you, Eric, have you ever run a marathon?
Never.
You ever run a half marathon?
No.
Have you ever run down the street looking for a sandwich?
Not looking for a sandwich, perchance, but yeah, I've run down the street, sure.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have a young lady with us who has got quite a life, and she's an author. She's an editor. She does digital strategy and copyright and all kinds of brand work and stuff. She also is the author of 30,000 Steps, which is a huge book that is, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to read it. This is part 2, by the way. We did part 1 on YouTube on my channel prior to doing this, so I get her for the entire 2 hours, which is really cool.
Wonderful.
Yes, indeed. So Eric, I just want to thank you and KKNW for making all this technology possible. If you could do one thing for me, please.
You bet.
Could you figure out how to make me look like 30 pounds lighter? That'd be better.
Hey, if I could figure out how to do that, I'd apply it to myself first. But
oh, now stop. Jess, I got to tell you, I knew him from 19 years ago, 20 years ago now.
Wow.
When I first started Positive Talk Radio, he was the board operator. That he looks exactly the same. It's not fair.
Goes way back. That's great.
I wish that were true. But
he keeps saying that, but I'm telling you, if I were to take pictures of back then and now, you would look virtually the same. So, but I want to thank KKNW and you for putting this together. This is going to be an impactful episode, and I hope everybody pays attention. If you have somebody that has addiction problems, if you have somebody that needs some help with that, Jess is here, and we're going to talk about her story, the book 30,000 Steps, which is getting amazing reviews all across the country, and it's been out since December, and it's really an important piece. It really is, with so many people they're suffering from addiction and overdose. 100,000 people in 2021. That number. By the way, Jess Keefe is with us. I wish I could pronounce your name, but Jess Keefe.
Now this is part of the fun. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's jesskeefe.com, and you can go there and you can find out all the information that you want to about her and the book that she's written, and you can actually hire her to do editing and to do different things if you would like to, because she's very, very good at it.
Yes, thank you so much. Plug for me. Thank you.
Well,
Call me, everybody.
But I can't tell you how many people that I know that say, I've got this book, but I have no idea how to edit it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what makes sense.
Oh, yeah. It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yes,
I can't do
it's so
it.
hard. The amount of time I spent, sitting on the floor whining during this process can't be overstated. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to put a book together.
So 30,000 Steps stands for, and I'm going to steal your thunder here, it stands for running a half marathon, which you have done. Not only did you run a half marathon and didn't run down the street to get a sandwich like I would, but you also ran a marathon.
Yeah.
and you've done 10 half marathons. Now,
Mhm.
I got to ask you, because I didn't ask you before I wanted to. Is your time improving?
Yes, and it's real. Well, it's been a roller coaster a little with the time actually because um everybody, and once you get into the insanity of like PRs, which is what how people abbreviate it for personal record. So my PR from half marathons is still in the past a bit, and my past couple of half marathons have been on a little on the slower side. So now I'm kind of in that phase of my running where I'm like, am I getting worse? Is my life over? Like what am I doing? So and I think running and training and running for a whole full marathon really kind of was it was difficult for me to go back to the half and remember how to be fast because you get used to like kind of just like knuckling down and like really suffering for a longer period of time. So my recent half was in November and it was just a freakishly hot day, like very, very hot for November. So, I finished and I did not have to go to the medical tent. So that was really about 6 miles in, that truly just became my goal, like just finish and do not go to the medical tent. But I'm hoping to come back with a vengeance. I really would like to PR again sometime soon. So I'm going to do a race in March and that one maybe will be my revenge, depending on the
So,
weather.
so let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You do a half marathon,
Yes.
and your primary goal is to not have to go to the hospital after you get done running it.
Yeah, precisely. It's like a normal thing that people with normal hobbies want to do. But it was crazy. I mean, it was the weekend after the New York City Marathon was the weekend before, and they had freaky hot weather in New York. And then here in Virginia, we still had freaky hot weather the following weekend. And it was no joke. I mean, people were dropping like flies. It was bad. So I was grateful that I was not, lunged over on the side puking. I
Oh,
got to the
that's
finish and I was so hot and exhausted. They had pizza and stuff. And I was just like, I must go home and lay down. I need to take a cold shower. So, that's, if I'm not wanting to eat the pizza, that tells you everything you need to know. It was brutal.
well, and the whole reason why you got into running marathons, running half marathons, because you had a tragedy happen in your life, and it was somebody that you actually lived with. Tell us a little
Mhm.
story about that.
Yeah. So my brother Matt was 3 years younger than I. So he and I were always very close in age, and we always were very close throughout life. And for a period of time in Boston, we lived together, and his health had been kind of touch and go. For a long time, he dealt with mental health issues as well as drug use issues. So actually, while we were living together, he fatally overdosed. So that was just about as horrible as it sounds. It was definitely the worst thing that has happened to me ever. It was terrible. So after that whole, it was, it's the layers of it were just, it's awful to lose a loved one. It's awful to lose someone at a young age who's like a peer to you. It's awful to be physically present during a traumatic medical emergency. So rough stuff all around. And after that happened, I felt such an enormous disconnect from my body. It was hard to just go through daily life. Everything felt difficult. Like the simplest tasks felt difficult. Going grocery shopping felt impossible. Paying my bills was just difficult. Just physically doing the tasks was difficult. So I got into running out of a like I think a lot of people do, out of a place of sheer desperation and sort of just looking for something that would finally help me feel like I could cool it. So I felt like once I was on a plan to work toward a set goal, I signed up for a race, which I thought, was people tell you to do when you get into running. And before this happened, I was always kind of like, yeah. Like I was nervous about racing. I didn't want to be in a race environment. I was like, I'm slow. It'll be, hard. But the grief kind of just put all that part of me away. So I didn't have time to really second guess myself, maybe like I normally would have. So I was just like, you know what, I'm doing this. So I signed up and I did my little training plan and I got myself ready for the race. I was definitely struggling in certain elements. It's, learned so much along the way about, the importance of cross training and stuff like that. I had an injury at one point that I thought was going to prevent me from running the race. But it all worked out. It was good. So I ran the race and I was like, oh, that was fun. I like it. So I've kept doing it since then. But yeah, the running, regardless of whether or not you're doing a race, for people who, if you are the sort of person who has ever enjoyed running, I recommend it as a thing to reach for when you are feeling any type of extreme trouble in your life. I have a newfound understanding for the meditative and therapeutic brain process that comes with running, not just the physical process. So,
And oddly enough, 30,000 steps equals about a half marathon.
that's right. Yeah. And another thing I enjoyed about that little kind of metaphor too is that it's different for everybody. And how many steps it takes me to get from point A to point B might be different from you, depending on how tall we are, how quickly we walk, things like that. And I think that that is a really nice parallel to what it's like to deal with substance use disorders. You know, like I think a lot of the struggle that comes with trying to treat these conditions is sort of like forcing people into a hole of like one shape and size and saying like, this is what we have available. Like, this is how we deal with things, you know? And if this isn't working for you, you know, then there's something wrong with you. And I think that what's been discovered and what's been starting to be embraced now is that, you know, everybody's different and there are lots of treatment modalities that work. And they all work differently for different people. And I think that, you know, letting people have access to the spectrum of treatments, rather than trying to say, you know, well, you have to go to this kind of program or this kind of therapy or this kind of group meeting, can make all the difference for people. So there's that too, which is nice.
Well, and it's an interesting phenomenon, this addiction thing, because it changes the chemistry of your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really. I don't know that anybody walks into their life and says, you know, just for fun, when I'm 15, I think I'll get addicted to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Totally.
you
Yeah.
know, it's just kind
I've
of
heard a lot of people in recovery say that, like, you know, being like, I didn't wake up one morning and say like, oh, you know, it'd be a fun new hobby. Like, you know, no one ever really imagines that for themselves or wants that for themselves. You know, it's a result of a lot of different things. And yeah, you know, it's hard, you know, because I think it really is like, you know, that perception of people who this happens to and why is so powerful and harmful, you know, that it's hard to imagine. It's really hard to unpack how much each of us deep down in our inside of ourselves maybe harbors beliefs about people who deal with the sort of issue that aren't right and don't make sense, you know, like no one would choose this, no one wants this. But when you grow up the way we do with, you know, every social cue you learn about drug use and it's a crime, you know, and it's a horrible crime. And if you do this, you're a criminal. And, you know, that whole piece of it makes it really hard. And when you're an adult to be like, is that right? Like, is my brother, who I love more than anyone, who is like one of the coolest, most interesting people I know, like he's bad. I'm supposed to believe he's bad because this thing is happening to him. So it's screwed up.
it really is. And
Yeah.
and when you talk about your brother, I can see it in your face. I can see it in your eyes that you have a deep, abiding love for him, which continues to this day.
Yeah.
And the grief that you felt must have been profound.
Yeah.
How did you, that besides running, how did you get through it?
Yeah, I mean, that really is the question, right? Like I feel like every time I hear that question, I have a different thought because part of it is that like the only way through it, what is it? No, the only way out is through, right? I've heard people say that, and I always find that that's very satisfying. When this happens to you, and that's the thing too, is that, you know, my grief experience has so many layers to it. Like one of the things that really shocked me, or not shocked me, but like when this was first happening to me, right? Like people act like it's contagious. People act like you have something and they're like afraid to be around you, you know, like not, you know, not, I have a wide, like my loving family, my loving friends. Like I have so many people who literally held me up and fed me and like got me through it. So like the network I had first and foremost was the most important thing that got me like through this experience, having people to lean on and having people to talk to and having people to just exist with, you know, you don't have to like talk and process all the time, but just being able to go to my friend's house and sleep on her couch, that made the difference, you know. But it's like the degree to which some, like, you know, acquaintances or whatever, just people will kind of like, ooh, you is like kind of amazing. So because it's, you know, it's the rule of life on this earth is this is coming for all of us. If it's not, I know this happened, when my brother died, it was like, I know this is happening to me now, but like, this is going to happen to you. And I think that's part of why people feel so uncomfortable, is because they don't want to have to think about that. They don't want to have to engage with that.
They don't want to think about it. They don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They don't know.
And not to and not knowing what to say is like totally fine. Like, that's like, I mean, I think most people would tell you that, that's someone coming up to me being like, gosh, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. And I love you. Like, that's the thing that matters more than anything else. It's almost like when people feel like they do have to like give you some kind of like nugget of wisdom or like something, like they feel like they have to like offer you some kind of platitude. Like, that's usually when you're just like, please stop talking to me.
I'm sure he's better off now.
Yeah, and like like there's a plan or whatever, like and people are entitled to whatever they want to believe, of course. But it's just like the way people kind of just like spew things at you after this happens is like sort of amazing. So you just and I feel like I also too, just like as like a rule in life, like I have one of those faces where people will just like come up to me and just like say the absolute like wildest stuff. I don't know why, it's always been like that. So when my brother died, like kind of walking around my hometown, like it's a small town and everyone kind of knew, so like people would just come up to you and just be like, and you're like, and now you're like, it's sort of this like weird game where you're like, well, now I'm not even really thinking about like me or my grief. I'm thinking about how to react to this weird situation that you've put me in. So it's almost a relief, like, because then you have something else to think about.
So somebody spends time verbally throwing up on you.
Yeah. And you're kind of like, it's weird because, I mean, like, it's also too, like, it is a very like, or was in my view, a pretty psychedelic experience. I felt in good ways and bad ways, like I felt like I was, I don't know, tuned into a frequency that I'm not normally tuned into. And it was scary, but it was also interesting. It made it really easy to see things that matter and things that don't. So that was one of the things that was good about it, like in general, up until this happened. And, to this day, I'm a pretty anxious person. I'm always a worrier, I'm always thinking 20 steps down the line and panicking about something. But grief kind of makes it that part of my brain just like stopped functioning. So it's kind of nice. It was kind of a relief. Like I felt like, every day it became more of a like, all right, well, I guess I should probably shower and eat and like do the tasks I have to do. And like, that's it. I also have a dog, and the pet, like really just, everyone's different, but like if you're a pet person, like you simply must have a pet, both for the comfort that they bring you like in your life, and also just the responsibility of having to care for an animal. Like there were definitely times where I probably wouldn't have left the house for, I don't even know, not even days, probably weeks, if it wasn't my responsibility to like take the dog out for a walk and stuff like that. So, I mean, you just really got to fall back into the loving arms of the people that care about you. And that can be really hard for people who are control freaks like me, or, or who consider themselves like strong in a certain way, or who are usually the caretaker and all that stuff. I wasn't used to being, babied kind of in the way that I needed to be babied after this happened to me by my friends and my loved ones, and really looked out for and cared for. And I'm grateful for that to this day, like just an incredible, and you'll be amazed. Like that's a thing too about it too, that's sort of heartwarming, is that like when something like this happens to you, the people who step up and help you, you will never forget, like, and you have that forever. So it's nice, like it really clarifies relationships for you as well. And you'll always be able to remember that something really bad happened and some really important people helped you.
So when someone that something has bad happened to,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you don't know what to say, you don't know how to say it, maybe just bringing them dinner would be a very helpful thing.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to say anything. It's just like, here.
I had friends who left bagels on my stoop and just texted me. Like they weren't even, because it was like, it would be that thing too, right? Of like people would offer to bring you stuff, but then sometimes you felt like I was like, okay, well, my apartment is a disaster. I'm embarrassed. Like I look like a mess. Like I don't want to like see people necessarily, but so when people would just like text me and be like, I was just by your house and I left something out there for you, like enjoy it, and left it more. The ball was more in my side of the court to respond and like, you know, reach out and make the plans. It was great. Yeah, there's lots of stuff you can do.
I appreciate that greatly because, you know, the thing is when you're not feeling well, when you're feeling anxious or you're feeling very sad and you're not cleaning your toilet bowl as an example, and then somebody says, "Well, let me come over and make you dinner." It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, come on, because now I got to clean my house.
Yes.
I've got to make sure it looks presentable. I got to take a shower myself. I got to clean the toilet. I got to do all this stuff. Just leave me alone."
Exactly. I know. Like the kindness that the way that is kind is like manifold, you know, because it's nice to bring someone food and then just really relieving someone of the pressure to like be on with you. Also, that's the hard thing too, right? It's like obviously after, you know, a major loss or a grief experience, there are times where you want to talk about it. And I did want to talk about it a lot, but sometimes there's the perception that like, I don't know, I think sometimes when people are reaching out, they think that like, you want to talk, so I'm going to like offer to talk to you. And I didn't really want to talk about it that much. And like when I would be talking about it, I sounded nuts. Like I didn't sound like a coherent person. I wasn't having like a conversation that really mattered. I was sort of just like, I would rehash the events that occurred a lot. I think it was because I was traumatized and was struggling to understand that even really did happen. You know, even to this day, like the way the memory lives in my mind feels like nothing else. And like I even when the book came out and I got to hold it in my hands, I was so excited and I was paging through it. It was like, yeah, reading it, I was just like, I can't even believe, I don't even remember writing this in certain ways. Like I don't even remember doing this, you know, like because it's like that's how much your brain will like flip over itself to protect you, you know, from your harshest memories. So yeah, so the like conversations that you have with people when this is so whatever. So like, you know, there's a lot of people that want to show up and be like, I'm here for you. Like, let's talk. Do you want to talk? Anytime you want to talk, just call me. And I'd be like, I don't want to do that. Do you want to go to like the circus? Like, you know, we can like anything else other than that would be cool. But it's nice to have someone like an arm's length away. Like it's nice to just have people around you. You don't necessarily have to have this like big intense conversation every time you see each other, but just having someone that's like checking in on you, bringing you stuff, offering to take you places, like that's what's up.
Yeah. So I think that's great advice. So instead of knocking on the door with a plate of lasagna that you have, leave it, you know, on the front porch and then call and say,
Yeah.
there's some lasagna on your front porch.
Yeah.
So why don't you go get that? And then you don't have to be so put out by, you know, all that, because nobody wants people to walk into your house and go, man, do they actually live like this?
Yeah, and then they're like worried about you on a whole nother level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking with Jess Keefe. Hey, I did it. How about that?
Perfect.
JessKeefe.com is where you can go find out all about her. She's a writer of note. She has done a lot of writing in magazines. You know what magazines are. They're these pamphlets they used to put out, and you could get a prescription and get one once a month. And that they weren't online even, but now you're writing a lot online.
Yes.
And in the book, and by the way, she's going to be doing a reading in Washington, D.C. So if you got nothing better to do and want to fly 5 hours across the country,
You know, why
go.
not? If you got those Southwest points, if you had, you know, your Christmas flight was canceled and they gave you some money, come hang out with me in DC. It'll be great.
Which happens to a lot of us. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and you know, your story in the book, the way you've written it, is so impactful and for people, because during the story there are some down times and some hard conversations that you have with the reader, but it's all designed at the end of the day to be positive, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that was the strongest feeling I had about the whole thing and it was sort of like I wanted to show that like coming out on the other side of this, the way that hope felt to me and feels to me now is so much different than I expected. I think when I started, you know, when my brother died, I like, and people would try to like, you know, the platitudes would come out. He's a better place, you know, you'll get through it, blah, blah, blah. I am a contrarian by nature. And so I would also like, anytime anyone would say stuff like that to me, I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm never I'm never going to be okay. My brother's dead. He's never coming back. Like, he's never coming back. Like, I would say that, like, I would be like, people don't seem to understand. He's dead and he's never coming back. Like, I was very fixated on that. I was just like, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened. Like, there is no upside. There is nothing that's going to be good. I'm not going to feel better, you know? And I think that I did start, ironically, to feel better when I realized that it was more about feeling different. Like, you know, I was like, everything's just going to be different. Like, I'm going to be different. The world around me is going to be different, and it will go on, you know? And that, I think, made me more comfortable, because it was like, I didn't have to like move on in this sort of like official sense that I got the impression people wanted me to, which was like, just forget about it and like whatever and move forward. And our culture, you know, doesn't make a lot of room for grief or for difficult conversations in general. So it sort of just felt like, you know, like, I don't know, it's hard. We don't have a lot of spaces to really like think about people we've lost and love in a way beyond, you know, it's like you get your funeral and then it's sort of like, all right, come on, like, how much longer could you really be sad for? So for me, the journey of the book and what I tried to show is that, you know, by the end of this, like, it's not some big, stupid, corny, like, yay, everything's better now, but it's just sort of like, well, everything's different now. And I have a different understanding of myself and my brother and what he went through and what the world around me is like. And I feel like there are ways that I can still feel connected to him and connected to his memory that are valuable, you know, and part of it is being able to talk about it and share this with people. And like you said, you know, I mean, just the unbelievable scale of the drug crisis and people who are going through this, it's possible to even attempt to quantify, you know? So you just know there are a lot of people out there who are feeling these feelings. And I was just like, I feel like if I could just like talk to them, I'll feel like this was worth doing, you know? So it's cool to hear from people who relate to the story and have been, whether they've been through something similar or not, you know, just knowing that people are getting more used to hearing about this sort of thing, rather than having to feel like you have to bury it or not talk about it in straightforward language.
You can never bury it. You can never bury him. He's
Yeah.
always going to be there for you.
Yeah.
He's very proud of you,
Yeah.
of the person that you are, the book that you've written.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about that. We need to pay the bills a little bit and take a break and figure out how we do that. So this is, by the way, the first time we're using a video audio on Positive Talk Radio on KKNW. So you can go to our YouTube page or to KKNW's YouTube page or Facebook or Twitter, and you can follow us along and you can actually see the show being done. It really is quite phenomenal. So Jess Keefe is with us, and we're going to return right after these messages. Hey there. I'm excited that you're listening right now, and if you like what we're doing here, you're going to love positivetalkradio.net. On positivetalkradio.net, each show, which is recorded live, is packed with positive information, with real people discussing real issues and positive solutions that can work for everyone. I hope that you'll join us on positivetalkradio.net and listen to all 340 plus shows. I think it's worth your time. But then, that's just me. That's positivetalkradio.net, your home for great progressive positive podcasts.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com, at your fingertips today.
Hey, my friend. I'd really like to thank you for listening to the show today. As you may know, I started Positive Talk Radio way back in 2003. We were one of the first shows on KKNW. For 11 months, I was fortunate to be part of many lives, making a positive difference with great interviews and discussions, creating new thoughts and ideas. Sadly, for financial reasons, I had to terminate the show. Well, it took 18 years, but we're back better than ever. And not only on KKNW Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but also podcasting with several inspiring channels with the same driving passion as the original. Please visit kmmedia.pro for complete information about all of these shows. In addition, if you feel called to To keep positive programming on the air, you can join us by sponsoring the show and aligning yourself with our mission, which is nothing short of saving the planet and each other. Again, that's kmmedia.pro. I'll see you there. Wow, that's pretty good, I gotta say. I enjoyed watching that, and I made them.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, and I thank you so much for that, because that was a those were the so first of all, I got to tell you, I got to thank our media person. Her name is Demi, and she does a phenomenal job of putting those things together. It's just awesome.
The whole thing, the way it works is absolutely incredible to me. I might as well be on the moon. Like, I don't even, like, how does everyone do all of this? It's crazy. And having it all line up, like broadcasting all these different places, it's amazing. Props to the whole team. It's cool.
It really is. It's fun. So
yeah.
And you're fun, and you really are. It's awesome to have you here.
Yeah.
This is Jess Keefe. She's the author of 30,000 Steps.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story about her brother's death and aftermath,
Mm-hmm.
and how she's recovered from it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't appear to be a person in grief, because you have got a great smile. You've overcome it, and you've lived through it. You came out the other side. You must be proud of yourself.
I mean, it's difficult with my, highly internalized Irish Catholic guilt to be proud of anything I do. But yeah, I am. I mean, and I think it's easier for me now after all of this to be a little more joyful and move through my life with a little more of a spring in my step, because now kind of firsthand just how very bad it can get. So every day that I'm living with my dog and my loving partner and my beautiful family, it's really hard not to just be like very grateful, very, very grateful for it all. So in that way, grief is a gift, as corny as it sounds to say. And I never want to say anything that makes it sound like losing someone is like worth it in some kind of way. That's not at all the implication. But I think that that's the sort of thing, like there's something sparkly about people who've been through a serious grief experience that I feel like I always like could see before I had done it myself. I have some close friends who had major losses in their lives, and they're always very like sparkly, joyful people that I felt very drawn to. And now I feel like I am kind of a person like that too for people. So I'm glad to be so. And I think that, it's ultimately a really good thing. But yeah, I think it's there's something about going through something like this that just kind of makes you come out and you're just like, if you're everything's cool, that was so bad. And now and somehow here we are, so
the experiences that we have are what shape us.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that think of the things that you've done. Yes, it was a horrible experience, but think of what you've done since.
Yeah.
Running, writing the book. This book is going to help people, and it's going to be very important. And by the way, the name of the book again is 30,000 Steps.
Mm-hmm.
And Jess Keefe is the author. And go to her website, jesskeefe.com, and find out all kinds of stuff about her. And I know that your family and your partner and your dog, by the way, what kind of dog is it?
Oh, he is a ridiculous mix of 50% medical. We did the genetic. He's like a rescue dog. Like we did the genetic thing, and it was like mostly, we don't know, but he is like a chow, golden retriever, cattle dog mess. He's very fluffy, and he's very old. So now he's coming up on 13. So I feel really grateful that I've been able to have as much time with him as I have. So he mostly is asleep, but he is still my very best friend.
And very smart.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's I don't want to discount anything, because grief, even when you're having grief for a dog, that can be as devastating as it is if you lose a parent or if you lose somebody else.
Yeah, I'm really like every day when I look at him, I'm like, we are preparing for the next anticipated difficult experience. So I definitely am feeling like, it's time to make a emergency plan for how I'm going to get out of bed and shower and do all that stuff when that time comes. But I'm just, especially after, like feeling like losing my brother, like having him kind of ripped out of my life before he should have been, was so awful. I think, and I'm just like, I'm really grateful that I got to have a whole doggy life with my pet and that he's still here with me and I get to enjoy him in his old age. And it's an extra treasured experience for me now after knowing what it's like to lose somebody too soon.
Exactly. And if you have the means, I lost my border collie. His name was
Oh.
Wesley at 14
Oh.
and a half.
Oh, old boy, he's a good boy.
And his hips were
Yeah.
bad and he couldn't run anymore. He
Mhm.
was a dog that could run for miles and miles. And at
Yeah.
the end you would toss his ball and he'd go the 5 feet that you tossed it and then lay down.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have the opportunity, I had somebody come to the house.
Yeah, that's yes. I have had a friend that had to do that as well, and she said that was really top notch. So that is, I'm gonna start thinking about that for when it comes. But yeah, I can't
And
imagine. I can't imagine it. Yeah, any other way. So
and I hope that day doesn't come for a long time.
yeah, well, but we'll be, and that's it's one of those things, man.
And that's the thing about the older we get, the more we realize that this stuff just happens in life.
It's all just one of those things. It is true.
And
So,
if we could, if we could deliver a message today, that I would ask a couple of things. First of all, you are well aware of the ability for the antidotes, Narcan, or you call it. There's another one that you call it.
Naloxone is the generic name. So like the brand name nasal spray is called Narcan, but also naloxone is the medication itself. And you can get it in like a little vial and a syringe. You just inject it in someone's arm.
We have EpiPens for when you have if you're allergic to peanuts or you're allergic to anything that can protect you. We should be on a mission to have Narcan available for every household, because you don't know who you don't know is using what they're using and how they're using it. And even if it's you have it and it's your neighbor, you
Definitely.
have it available to you, and it is very easy to administer, and it doesn't cost a great deal of money, and you could actually save a life.
Totally. Yep. And if someone in your life uses drugs and you're concerned about them, there are so many nonprofit organizations that do incredible work they'll put Narcan in the mail to you. If you're embarrassed to go to the pharmacy, I get it. No judgment. It's hard. It's like if you feel like you go to the pharmacy and you'd more likely burst into tears and be able to say, can I please have a dose of Narcan? I'm concerned about my loved one. There's an organization called Next Distro. There's also an organization called End Overdose. If you Google those things, resources will come up. There's lots of people who want to help. There are people that will put the stuff in the mail to your house, either for free or for, I think, like shipping costs. If you give them $8, they'll send it to you. There are lots and lots and lots of people out there who really want to help. And you should check it out. Even if it's like, sometimes I feel like it's hard to open your mouth and say these things, but just get on the computer, type it into Google, and then you'll have it and you'll feel so much better. And you can, give it to your loved one, keep it for yourself in your home, so you have it around. It's good to have. And if and when you do need to use it, you'll be so grateful.
And I for one have seen it in action. When I was driving a bus, and I had a gentleman that was ODing on the bus, and they could not wake him up, and no matter what they did, the fire department came and all. But when they administered this thing, it's like there's a movie where a guy was like comatose, and then they inject, I don't know but he just woke up and got up and walked off the bus. He was a little stiff-legged, but he was he was smiling, going, how the hell did I get here? So but it only lasts for so long. So then so even if you have it, you still need to call somebody.
911. Yep. They will come and help you. Yep.
Yes. And by the way, did you know, I don't know that we didn't talk about it, but there's a new number. If you are having a bad moment in life, a bad moment in time, are you aware of this number?
Yes.
You want to go ahead?
No, I think is it 988? Which one is it?
Ma'am.
Is it?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Wow. Okay, cool. I remember hearing when they passed this legislation. Yeah, it's the national, it's like a mental health emergency line. So if you are in crisis or someone you love is in crisis, and it's not necessarily a 911 type of situation, but you are feeling like it's really time to talk to somebody, you can call them.
Well, the problem is that sadly, mental illness and drug addiction tend to go hand in hand a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's something like I forget. I think the statistics in the book, but it's something like 50% of people that have a mental health problem also have an addiction, and also 50% of people who have addiction also have a mental health problem. So they're very commonly seen together.
And I really think that we as a country, and this is maybe me editorializing a little bit, but we as a country, because 100,000 people are dying a year of this, and because of fentanyl and the other things that are being introduced into this pool of drugs, that we really need to do everything that we can to protect people. And for those of you that would say, I don't think that you should give him a antidote when he did something stupid to begin with, I would think that you need to be quiet and sit in the corner. Thank you.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is, like, when everybody kind of gets into this, and it's weird because, like, I don't know, as you've stated before, like, it's like with other issues, I mean, there are definitely plenty of other ones that, like, people get into this moralizing about, but, like, if someone has hypertension or someone has diabetes, you don't often hear, like, the peanut gallery coming out being like, well, maybe they shouldn't have had that Coca-Cola, or they shouldn't have, I mean, like, it's weird. Like, it's usually when people have, like, diabetes and need their insulin, it's like, well, yeah, they need their insulin to live. Like, there's really kind of nothing else to it. But when it comes to people who have issues with substances and drug use, everybody's an expert on what's moral and what's not, and what's enabling and what's not. And I think at the end of the day, it's just a matter of, like, yeah, I think about the person that you love more than anything in the world, like, that this could happen to them. And then how would you feel if someone told you, I don't really think that it sends the right message to help people? It's just wild, like, how people want to talk about it like that, but it's common.
Well, I was involved in a conversation like that where the person said, well, if he wasn't so heavy, he wouldn't have diabetes.
Right. Yes. That was actually what I was thinking. I was thinking of, the obesity epidemic. Like, there's just, like, so any sort of, like, whiff people get, and this is because of, America is unfortunately at its core in a lot of ways a very individualist, puritanical country. So any sort of whiff people get of, like, you did this to yourself, it's like, that's it. No, no help for you, no assistance for you, and it's like, kind of ignores
no more soup for you.
Yeah, like, and it doesn't really think about, like, well, who's selling the soup, who has access to the soup, like, what goes in the soup. They're not choosing, it's like, how much autonomy or independence does any one of us have? We're all just doing the best we have with the resources around us, like.
Well, and the person that this person said that to had type 1 diabetes.
Right.
Which is something that happens from birth.
Yeah.
You have no control over it. Your body doesn't produce insulin. You're on insulin for virtually your entire life. Doesn't allow you to lose weight because you have to keep, your system regulated and all that kind of good stuff. So let's not be judgmental of our fellow man.
And it's the same with the grief thing too. I mean, it's just like, when people say these things, it's almost like they're saying it out loud for their own benefit, because if they can continue to solidify their belief that, like, this only happens to a certain type of person with a certain type of thing, then the other side of that is, well, as long as I'm not a certain type of person with a certain type of thing, this will never happen to me, so I don't have to worry about it. It's much scarier when you start getting into the place of, like, oh no, this could happen to anybody at any time. It's scary, but that's the reality, like, and some people, I think, don't want to live in reality, and I understand it's complicated, but it is reality.
Unless that happens to you, a lot of times you're going to say, well, if they'd only had a better childhood,
Yeah, sure.
but the fact of the matter is, drug addiction can happen to anybody, and there are numerous reasons for it. One of which is if you have a major surgery and they give you a lot of Oxycontin and other cocktails that are feeding you, and somebody who's on the show, I told you about that, they got 60 Oxycontin pills, and by the time they were done with that, they were hooked. And so then couldn't get that anymore. Heroin is a very similar thing. And so there you are. And then he ended up dying at 31.
Yeah, it's terrible. And that's the thing too, is that, it's so scary. It's really scary. And I think that people, as much as we can, just remembering to like really ask your doctor, like talk to your doctor. If you're concerned about addiction issues going into a surgical setting, like there are lots of options available to you. And there's also lots of things that your doctor can help you understand. So like you said before, about the client, the person you're speaking to had, you know, her whole thing about there's like a nurse clinician who makes a plan with you. Like that's really what matters the most. Like you need somebody that can help you understand like when it's appropriate to use this kind of medication and when you should start to think about not, when it's not appropriate at all to use it. You know, like it's scary, but you know, like fentanyl is really scary. It is really scary in the illicit drug supply, but it is also a medical tool. You know, like if you've ever had major surgery, they probably used fentanyl on you. They handle it in hospitals every single day. No one's spontaneously overdosing in a hospital setting when they get out the fentanyl. It's scary in the illegal supply. And I think that the more people are aware of what the real threat is, the easier it is to not panic. So, you know, just keeping that stuff in mind when you're in a medical setting and saying like, hey, I do want to talk about this because, you know, doctors, it's hard to really nail them down and have a conversation with someone in a medical setting without them running off or doing something else. So, you know, advocating for yourself and your loved ones is ace.
Absolutely. By the way, we're talking with Jess Keefe. She's written the book 30,000 Steps. I highly recommend that if you don't buy it for yourself and you know somebody who may be at risk or another family that may be at risk, buy it for them. I get them to read it so that they can understand that these things happen quickly. They can happen like in a moment, and we all need to look out after each other to try and keep it from happening. So, what does Jess see for herself? What are you going to be doing next?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Oh, that's a great answer.
So, I mean, it's great. Like, I mean, I think I can get pretty like, you know, I'm very goal oriented in a specific kind of way. So like I've been working on this and this goal that is happening right now around me for a long time. So I'm trying to just like enjoy it as much as possible and then think about what's next. Maybe I'll join a jump roping competition and write a book about that. I mean, I truly have no idea. Like this has been such a huge chapter of my life that I feel really lucky and honored to bring to a close in a beautiful way, like having this book come out and being able to share it with wonderful people like you. So yeah, I don't know. Writing and chilling and maybe running another marathon. We'll see. I don't know.
Hey, well, I know you got one in March, remember?
With a half is my
Oh, that's
happy
a
place.
half. Okay.
Full marathon, I don't know. If anybody out there is interested in running like the Boston Half Marathon for charity, maybe you could talk me into it. But it's going to probably have to be a while before I take on another full one.
I'm pretty sure I couldn't ride a bike 23 miles.
I barely like to ride a cab 23 miles. So, you know.
I'll take an Uber.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's great to have you here, and you are such a shining example of somebody that can come out the other side and really have a positive impact on the world around her. And congratulations for that.
Well, thank you so much. That's really nice to hear. So thank you.
And you know we're coming up on 2 hours, you and I.
Yeah.
And this gone like really fast.
I know. It's just been, you know, it's great to chat. Yeah, it's really nice. It's cool.
Well, you are just an extraordinary human being, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But he's there for you, and look at what you've done.
Yeah.
Look at how you're soaring.
And this is one of those nice experiences where you get to say, well, it's just one of those things. Like this is a nice one of those things, which is cool. So.
Yes, indeed. So now, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, if they would like you to do some copying for them or some brand work, tell us about. I'm interested. Tell me about the brand work, real quick.
Oh, sure. So you know, I've worked with you know, nonprofits and health organizations, as well as you know, like startups and retail companies and all sorts of stuff too. You know, I'm a writer of all trades. I like to help people put their mission and message into language that resonates with an audience. So I definitely enjoy doing that as well. You can follow me. So my website has more information about some of the services I offer. And I try not to spend too much time on social media these days, but I do look at it. So if you want to follow or contact me on Instagram or on Twitter, I am at Jess Keefe, just like my name, just like the website. So you can follow me there. And yeah, I'd love to hear from people. If people want to, if you read the book, if you like the book, please drop me a note. Let me know. I love to hear from readers. So that's great.
So we've got about 5 minutes left in the show. And you got 5 minutes to come up with a brand new brand for me for Positive Talk Radio. What do you think because I get told that I should narrow my niche and I have trouble narrowing my niche because I'm so interested in talking about a whole bunch of things with a whole bunch of really cool people.
I already have an answer. It's the Positive Talk Radio bus.
You're not the first person to say that.
Because also too, the way that you are and the way that you're so delightful and interested in talking to people and such a warm presence, you remind me of, like, of course, the nicest bus drivers. Like who wouldn't want to be on a bus with you?
That's pretty brilliant.
Take it on the bus and people get on, people get off. It's the nature of a bus that everybody that gets on is different and has a different story to tell and stuff like that. You got to get the bus thing going. I love the bus.
That's the only one that I've ever met who waited for a bus and never got on was Forrest Gump.
That's true.
He waited for hours telling his story, and then it's just 2 blocks down that away. Down that away? Yes, down that away.
Janae.
Nice to meet you. Have a good day. So
yes.
So I've had the best time talking to you, but I will take that under the Positive Talk Radio bus.
Yep, you should think about it. Maybe do, like, I know this is great, like with the video. So if you have anybody involved in the show that likes to do video, like, you could do little video snippets on the bus of just talking to people, and I think it'd be awesome.
As a matter of fact, we are going to create a video around what you just said.
I love it. I think you should. It sounds great.
Yes, indeed. So you're brilliant. So you need to contact her, and she helped me in 2 minutes. She can help you in 3 or more. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yes. By the way, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I want you to. I'm going to step aside, and I want you to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know about your brother, about your recovery, about grief, whatever it is you'd like them to know.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Tall order. Let me see. Don't forget to eat. Really don't try to take a shower. This is to people who are experiencing grief. Don't forget to eat, take a shower. If you don't have a dog, see if you can go to your shelter and walk some, because that will make you feel really good. For people who have a loved one who is dealing with addiction, reach out to those orgs I mentioned, Next Distro, and Overdose. There are lots and lots of people out there who know what you're going through and want to help you. I know it feels like you are all by yourself, and in many ways you are, but there are lots of people out there who know exactly what you're dealing with and want to help you. And if you can have naloxone in your house or near your loved one, you'll be really grateful on the day that you need it. And I think those are my big messages that I'm trying to share with people talking about the book. And my brother, was an absolute star. And if you want to know about him and learn about him, I hope you'll read the book. And if you want to do something that he really would just kill to do, that he doesn't get to do anymore, you could go to a local drag show. So look up your local drag queens and pay them a visit, because that was something that my brother really enjoyed doing.
Very cool. So he there are some around here. I don't know where they are.
Yes, big Seattle, lots of big heavy hitters from Seattle, drag queens. Yeah, it's a good scene there.
Are there really? Well,
yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert, but like big names from RuPaul's Drag Race. The quirky ones are always from Seattle. Jinx Monsoon, Ben de la Creme. Those are some of the famous ones I'm aware of. But I hear that there's. I mean, I've never been to Seattle, as we've established, but I'm dying to go. And when I'm going to be checking out some local drag shows. So I know that it's out there. So if you're in Seattle, get on down.
And I live across the street from SeaTac Airport.
Perfect. You can pick me up in the bus.
I can. I'll just pick you up. I'd like to thank everybody for this is our inaugural version of our audio video on KKNW. I think it went fabulously. I couldn't think of a better guest to have to do this than you today.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for listening.
And it's been great fun. And if you want to find out more about Positive Talk Radio, go to positivetalkradio.net. We do 8 to 10 podcasts a week. We do some on KKNW. We do some in addition to that. And we always have a good time. And we're trying to change, quite literally, we're trying to change the world one person at a time. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to get on the Positive Talk Radio bus and catch it and pay your fare.
That's right.
I don't know. But thank you, everybody, for being here. And by the way, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you Wednesday on Positive Talk Radio.